Hi everyone, welcome. My name is Bryn Durgan and I'm the Director of Programming here at Bookstore One. And of course, I know many of you have joined us in the loft before, so you know that's a lot of programming. So we do writing workshops, author talks, book signings, live radio theater, you name it. And none of it would be possible if it weren't for readers and writers like you, so thank you from the bottom of our hearts. So while I tell you what to expect from this afternoon, I would like all of you to make sure that your phone is silenced, because there's nothing worse than a phone ringing in the middle of a poetry reading. So the author of the hour will be joined in conversation by our moderator, and afterward we'll invite questions from the audience, and then we'll close with a signing. So if you haven't yet picked up your copy of the book, it's right downstairs at the register. So joining our author in conversation is Lennie Hay, whose debut poetry collection, Lost in America, came out last year from Broadstone Books. Lennie grew up in the Midwest, shaped by both Chinese immigrant and Ukrainian German farming traditions. She has degrees in English, education, and poetry, and spent over 4 decades working in schools as a teacher, principal, and consultant. Her poems have appeared in the Louisville Review, Shanghai Literary Review, City Lights e-magazine, and many others. And her perspective, both on the page and in conversation, is rich with insight and curiosity. And now I'm thrilled to introduce to you our celebrated guest. She's the author of 4 poetry collections. Her earlier books, Bardo of Becoming, Orion's Belt at the End of the Drive, and Crossing the Sky Bridge, established her as a deeply thoughtful, lyrical, and precise voice in contemporary poetry. Her work has appeared in Gulfstream Magazine, the Louisville Review, the Hong Kong Review, and many other journals and anthologies. She's also been recognized by the Atlanta Review and the Chautauqua Writers Center, and we're proud to have her as part of Sarasota's literary community. Her latest collection, The Crossroad, was just released by Shadelandhouse Modern Press, and you can buy it right downstairs at the register. So join me in welcoming Pat Williams Owen.
I want to start out by just welcoming you. Is this on? Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Your time is your most irreplaceable resource, asset, and so I really appreciate your spending it with me. I hope you leave here with something to put in your pocket. I've always felt like a successful work of art deepens you in some way, gives you insight. Understanding that you didn't have before, makes you a more compassionate person, and hopefully that'll happen to you today. Hopefully you'll recognize yourself in some of these. Any good work of art has some universality about it, so although these are my experiences, something similar has probably happened to you, and I hope you'll take away something in your pocket so you can take it out and take a look at it as consolation during the coming days where we all have challenges. So Lennie and I are good friends. She knows my work very well. And we have not rehearsed this at my suggestion. I think it's fresher. I have no more idea what she's going to say than you do. I only had one criteria. There are 2 poems out of the collection I want to read because they're the heartbeat of the book. And there are about 5 that I don't want to read because of the sensitive nature of them. Just rather have you read them on your own than my reading them. So I'm going to turn it over to Lennie, and we're going to have a conversation, and then at the end you'll have a chance to ask questions, and I'll be happy to sign the book.
Pat, before we have you read a poem, I want to ask, this is your 4th book.
Yes.
What an admirable achievement. What, if anything, was different about the making of this book than of the others?
What's different about the making? My general process is I write every day, sort of a stream of consciousness of whatever's going on and my reactions to it. And then after a period of time, 3 months or so, I go back and look at that and see if there's anything I can carve out as a poem. In fact, I recently went on a cruise with some of these people here, and they don't know this, but I wrote 17 poems during the course of the cruise. So, I'm not sure. I think they're deeper and more personal. But beyond that, I use a regular system that seems to work for me.
Thank you. As you said, the title poem is very important to the book. It sets the stage. Would you begin by reading the Crossroad to set the stage for all of us?
Yes. Now, to set the stage for you, this poem happened in 1974. I don't know if you remember 1974. Most of you probably do remember 1974. But I lived in a very conservative place, Louisville, Kentucky. I was married and had two young children, and I fell in love with a woman. And from then on, my life has taken a different course than it might have otherwise. So let me put my glasses on so I can read this. The Crossroad. I used to tell Ellen early on, my heart hurts. I'd left a sanctioned life, an approved life. I'd permanently abandoned the life I had been given. I remember at times sitting on the floor of the hallway, going through hand-embroidered lindens I had been given as wedding gifts and bursting into tears. I knew I'd hurt and mystified those close to me. The effect on my young children still unknown. I only knew I had to leave. I had to choose a path in tune with my bloodstream. Only then could I own my bone marrow, breathe into the depths of my lungs.
Indeed, it speaks of the person. In your poem's family, 2 daughters and grandchildren are a treasured part of your life that comes through. You have a poem that's infused with memory and reflection about your firstborn, your daughter. It's called Try to Remember Her, a Toddler. And those of you who are following, it's page 18.
This is actually one of my favorite poems.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Good taste you have. This poem was published previously in the Louisville Review. I try to remember her, a toddler. Well, I'll set it up for you. Many of you have children, I'm sure. And have you ever thought about your grown children and what was it like when they were babies, toddlers? And it's hard to bring it back because they're now whoever they are, whatever age they are. But when you try to bring back these people who are closest to you in the world, what was that experience like? And this is what this poem explores. I try to remember her, a toddler, standing in front of the fridge, watermelon juice streaking down her chest. She was all mine, recently part of my body. I could sweep her up, face to face. Kisses all over her head. You are my sweet baby, I'd chant, putting her in a basket on my bike, pedaling around the neighborhood, describing all we were seeing. Now I go to her for advice. She, solid and professional in her long white lab coat, a responsible mother with adult daughters of her own. I try to bring back holding her close in the waiting room, her small body hot, fast beating heart, temple wet against my own, stroking her head tender and soft as a melon. Every ounce of my will lasered to keeping her alive, our survival interlocked. So tender, Pat.
In your poems, you make clear a deep relationship with nature. In fact, it becomes in the poems a life force, a source of rejuvenation, of healing. In the poem Buena Vista, the natural world fuses with the importance of family. Would you read that on page 19? Buena Vista, Colorado.
The local pronunciation in Colorado, they call it Buena Vista, although most people would think it's Buena Vista, but that's, if you go there, they'll call it Buena Vista. Buena Vista, Colorado. My grandkids are out running in this 8,000-foot altitude, rugged and fierce, faces alight. The atmosphere is rarefied, the air crystalline, the clothes form-fitting, lightweight, insulated, and waterproof. This stuff could go to the moon. And today I'm going with them. Despite the flab on my belly and my many decades on Earth, they kindly stopped to rest with me several times on our loop with not a shred of disparagement. We're surrounded by saturated blues and greens, the tawny tan of sandstone. Striding ahead of me on the path, my granddaughters, almost identical, their broad shoulders and long-legged loose gait, blonde hair swinging, glinting in the sun. These young Amazons thrived in a time when their strength was affirmed. As I huff and puff, I imagine my wind at their backs.
Have they seen that poem?
Yes.
They read it? Good. As many in here do, you split your time between Florida and someplace else. For you, it's Kentucky. In one of your Florida poems, creatures in our world inspire your reflection on what it means to be a human being, on the human condition. And that poem is Little Geckos Huddle on page 8.
Yeah, we're all in this together, aren't we? Little geckos huddle inside the screens of my sliders. Who can blame them? It's raining out and will be all day. They breathe in the dampness and feel the drops blow in on their soft green bodies. We all do the same. Seek protection from whatever's out there. Danger, discomfort. We've got our raincoats, our seat belts, our insurance policies. Creatures seeking shelter. Still, we all know from the last hurricane, our efforts may be a white flag blowing in the wind.
Very close to home. I love those geckos. You once told me,
Closer? Thank you.
you once told me that your poem 1974 Sanibel Island may be your favorite in this collection, and that it, like the Crossroad, is at the core of this book.
Yeah.
Would you read it? It's on page 2.
Yep. 1974, Sanibel Island. I'm at the payphone outside our cottage, 9 o'clock every night. The air moist and foggy, the kids finally asleep, and me standing under the glow of a mellow light, talking to my beloved 3 states away. To get there, I drove 1,022 miles. The captain of this small ship, kids in the back cheering the turn of each triptych page. It meant we were getting closer to paradise. What they didn't know, this wasn't just a vacation. I see their heads, fragile, in the rearview mirror. In memory, the 3 of us walk the beach searching for shells, sand buckets in our hands, my youngest running up to me, holding up a broken sand dollar. Is this one interesting? After hours collecting shells, we blow the sand off, each one, wash them in a bucket of water, place them in careful rows on the back porch, voting each day for our favorite. The pool, a must every afternoon. Kids in inner tubes twirling themselves round and round in circles. Trips to the library, trips to the craft shop, sitting on the floor of the sandy porch, playing Go Fish. Blonde heads, brown shoulders, the scent of sunscreen. Their long limbs growing so fast. I study them asleep, trying to envision an unknown future. In my mind, a magical glow pervades that time, our little world of three, so much hanging in the balance. All the while I ponder whether I have the grit to leave a loveless marriage, to be with the woman I love. I fear losing my children, as much a part of me as my blood and bones. Fear the fissure to their world if I follow my other heart. All through my child-centered day, I long for 9 o'clock, the receiver in my hand, speaking with my love 1,000 miles away. The intimacy of those words spoken under a black star-speckled sky. She says she'll drive down nonstop, an 18-hour trip to see me after the kids are in bed. Our love was such the sand sparkled, glittered in the darkness when we first walked together on the beach. I know science can't explain this, but we believed we were magic.
Pat, you're giving us truth and art when we need it the most these days. Thank you. You're a devoted student of poetry. You inspire me through your practice. You read widely and deeply. Marie Howe, a contemporary poet and teacher, figures in a few of your poems. Would you now read the gist of the gist, page 41?
Marie Howe, the poet. Marie Howe is always chewing on her lips, the top one full as though plumped with snuff. She chews on them, highlighting their sensuality as though she can't quite let them go. They're too delicious. Her wild hair falls around her shoulders like a waterfall. I'm reading the wrong one. I'm sorry. There are two Marie Howe poems. Sorry. Gist of the gist is on the other page. The one I was reading is on 42. They're both on Marie Howe. The gist of the gist. All Marie Howe tries to do, communicate the essence of being alive. And she does it sparingly, with no unnecessary words, just the gist of the gist. I want to see how she pares away the extraneous when all we need is the root dangling with mud and the blossom glinting with dew.
Pat, would you just say a few words, because we want to hear more poems, about how that poem and Marie Howe's, that idea, has influenced your poetry?
Well, that's my idea of what poetry is. That's what I try to do. I try to, my goal is to communicate what it feels like to be a human being living in a body, in a human body. What's that experience like? And to do that, you have to get rid of all the unnecessary words. It's like Michelangelo's statue, the David. He took a block of granite, I guess, some kind of stone, and he carved away everything that didn't belong, everything that wasn't David, he carved away. And what he was left with was David. So I try to do the same thing. Try to get rid of all the extraneous words and choose only the best words, the most appropriate words to enliven, embody what I see as living in a human body.
What a great explanation, the Michelangelo, the carving away. That's a wonderful analogy. I'd like to go to another poem now. We all know that personal belongings, an object, an item, may connect us to someone, and someone who may be lost, who is dead, who is gone from our lives. And your poem, Terry Cloth Robe, lovingly does this. And it's on page 8.
There's somebody in the gathering here who was here for this poem, who can vouch for its accuracy. This takes place in Provincetown, early on, probably in the 70s, maybe 70s, early 80s. Terry Cloth Robe. I'm still warmed by the terry cloth robe we bought so many years ago in Provincetown. I can still see you donning it on crowded Commercial Street. Among a sea of people, you spotted our friends weaving toward us and wore it as a joke. In the parade of outlandishness, men with plumes in their hats and parrots on their shoulders, we were part of the mix. I hope the robe will still be here long after I'm gone. It's now a little worn. Its blue stripes faded, the deep pockets drooping after years of toting reading glasses, fountain pens. Ink stains permeate the weave. Made in Turkey boast its origins, though not the origin in my mind. I envision my daughters eyeing it, wondering why I kept it so long. No way for them to know its meaning, a grief and consolation that cannot be moved beyond. Warmth swaddling my vulnerable body.
The Beloved's Robe. I'm watching the time. We want to be sure to have time for your questions and for signing. I'm going to go to one that has it's a great example of how poets and how you so well invite readers into an experience. Physical, emotional, spiritual experience. And you do that in your poem, Massage Therapist, on page 67.
Massage therapist. She told me all the ways her mother had tried to abort her. Through all her growing up had called her lard butt and dumb bunny. But now, years later, she brings her tall, thin frame to the massage table and gives herself over to my body there, anointed with oil, enveloped in tenderness, caressed like a newborn. In her focused meditative state, I become the beloved child, the one for whom she's responsible, whose happiness depends on her.
I'm sorry, that noise was, I was watching the time. I think we'll have you read one more before we go to questions, and it's especially appropriate today as you send your book of poems out into the world. That poem is Thumbprint on page 47.
Thumbprint. Today, my new book will arrive in a big cardboard box, the book's green covered and filled with my life. I'm anticipating this event like a woman with a belly long swollen in Houston in August. How long I've awaited this day, 9 months at least, an appropriate time for the birth of a child, though the poems took years to create. My baby's almost here, and what will I do with her, yearning to be worthy of this life, my DNA in print. There's nothing like seeing it in its final form, in the flesh, so to speak, to hold it, to know it's real, a tangible being to leave behind with my distinctive thumbprint.
Now, is there anything you'd like to say or something I didn't ask you to read that you'd like to read before we go to Q&A?
I think I'd just rather go to Q&A and speak to whatever people are interested in.
Okay. Bryn, do you want me to moderate? You can moderate.
I can point out people.
Okay.
Sure.
I actually have a question to start, which is, how do you know when you're done? What does completion look like in that way? And what was the final poem, if you remember, where you just thought, this is it?
For the book,
Yeah.
well, the book is returning to Kentucky in late April, so it's what I do every year, my annual migration, and so it seemed like a logical end to the book. But poems generally, I'm in 2 poetry critique groups, one here with Don McLaughlin and one based in people that have been in the Spalding MFA program in Louisville that Lennie's part of. So I present my poems to people in the poetry critique group, and they give me feedback as to whether it's done or not. And sometimes I agree with them, and sometimes I don't. But it's a matter of. But sometimes you can revise too much. Sometimes I think you can revise down to the bone, and you would have been better off just staying with the original. You know, I think it's an art. It's an instinct, and sometimes you live with it for a while. It may be done today, but then there'll be a change that something needs to be added or subtracted. It's a heart. It's an intuitive heart process.
Okay, what questions, just raise your hand if you have a question, I'll point to you. Go ahead.
Do you find that you have any rituals that you do to get you to write?
Well, the ritual is to write every day, and I read poetry every day, and I frequently listen to YouTube interviews with other poets. I read constantly all kinds of things. I try to air out my mind and body by working out and trying to be healthy and have a balanced life and pay attention to what's going on around me. So that's, I'm not sure it's magic. It's just paying attention more than anything else.
There was a question over here somewhere. Go ahead.
Favorite poets?
Favorite poets was the
I
question.
love Marie Howe. There's 2 poems in here about Marie Howe. Ellen Bass I've worked with for many years. Jack Gilbert. Off the top of my head, there's a lot of them that I love, but those are some I continually go back to.
There's another question over here. I saw a hand up. Go ahead. Are you going to be reading anywhere else? Was the question.
Well, I would love to. If any of you in the audience have a book group that you'd like for me to read for, or a neighborhood association, or a friends group, or whatever, I'm always open to it. Just let me know. Church group.
What other questions? Go ahead.
Pat, when did you first start writing poetry?
Well, I always tell people, my partner Ellen was diagnosed with breast cancer in 1998. And I always tell people that I started then as catharsis to dealing with that. But I remember, and I've looked back at old journals, and when I was a teenager, I remember thinking, anything I'm doing that's not writing is a waste of time. So I think maybe it went back earlier than that, but I've gotten more serious about it. I did part of an MFA program at Spalding, and I've done workshops all over the country and worked with a lot of talented people. So I've just, for a while it was catharsis, and then it became more of a serious pursuit.
What other questions? Okay, I have a question. I'm wondering how being a part of the Sarasota writing community has shaped your work.
Well, it's very important. I think Bookstore One is one of the best things about being in Sarasota. I live here, and when I did my opening remarks, I should have thanked you, Bren, and Sarasota, and Bookstore One. And Georgia is away, but she's been a powerhouse in poetry. I love all the workshops here, the excellent poetry collection downstairs. So it's the speakers that are brought in. It's a very enriching experience. I think it's one of the finest things about being in Sarasota is this bookstore.
Any other questions? Oh, go ahead.
Do you find the current political situation that many of us are talking about, processing, struggling with, to be something that may end up in one of your poems?
Yeah, in fact, they already have. It's taken a while because I sort of have to live with things for a while before they come out in my poetry. But I just finished a poem that I presented to one critique group, and I'm going to do the other one. It's hard to write, in my opinion, it's hard to write political poems because they're, by their nature, they're not poetic. They're polemics, and they're angry, and I'm angry, and I see that. But this one I just presented, I'm going to present it to the one Lennie's in next week. The basic, you really can't summarize a poem, so it's ridiculous to try to do this, but I'll try to do it. The poem is about, and I shared it with Paula, my neighbor. It's called Community Concert at the Lutheran Church. And I talk about sitting in folding chairs, listening to Beethoven's Seventh, and it starts out with jokes from the minister that he reads from his phone. And he looks like I just made it up, he was in the Marines. He looks like he was in the Marines. He's very bulky and has a burr haircut. And, but here we all are sitting on a basketball floor in folding chairs, and the orchestra's right here. And it starts out with jokes from the minister, and he announces that tomorrow we're going to have tonight we have Beethoven's Seventh, the community orchestra. Tomorrow we're going to have jokes. And it's all free, but donations for hurricane relief are welcome. He taps throughout with a pencil on his leg throughout. And the orchestra, it starts with a Pledge of Allegiance, standing Pledge of Allegiance, heart, hand over heart, singing the Star Spangled Banner. And so I go on with what this experience is like, sitting on the floor, and then the last stanza is, why is this so heartbreaking? Because our country is crumbling before our very eyes. So that's my political poem. It's a slice of life poem with an addendum of what's going on around us. But I think political poems are very challenging to write, but that one came naturally to me because it was organic. It came out of my lived experience. And it's good for me to get it out of my system. I mean, I really recommend writing to anybody, because if you can get it out of your body into a form outside your body, if you can turn it into a work of art, then I think it's healthier, and we need all the help we can get. And the community that we can find in the artistic world or in the sharing world is so important for our ongoing survival, I think.
What other questions? Just raise your hands. Oops. Okay, I have another question that was based on your answer. So you recently participated in our workshop with Rick Hillis about writing poems of joy and resilience in turbulent times. Can you tell us a little bit, like maybe one of the biggest takeaways that you have from that workshop?
Mm-hmm.
Like a piece of advice.
It's just, it was affirming to be in a group of people. There were about 12 of us, and we were sitting here around this table, and it's affirming to be with a group of people who have a commonality of belief. It feels like a protection, an outlet. A community is always better than no community, in my experience. So, and you know, he provided for us other poems of protest, and you can always learn from, if you see good work from other people, you can absorb it in some way.
And what advice would you give to someone who is looking to have their work published? Because you've been published in so many anthologies and journals.
You know, somebody that I worked with at Spalding said, every good thing that's ever happened to me in poetry has happened because of a connection with another person. And it's networking. Is you learn about what's going on, you learn about what contest to enter, you learn about publishing possibilities, you get together with new groups. It's like anything else, the more connections you have, the better. Good things just flow from it. So I would say start and get together with a group and show up at readings and meet other people, and you know, follow your bliss, and it comes.
Okay, last question. How does it feel? You read the thumbprint poem, and so I'm wondering, now that it's, you know, we're post-birth, so how does it feel? This is the day.
It feels fabulous. I love this book. My heart and soul is in this book. There's a lot of truth in this book, and I hope that you can recognize your own truth from what you've heard here. And you know, I worked on this for probably 3 years, but a lifetime is another answer of how long it took to write the book. And I'm pleased with it. I'm happy with these poems. I'm proud of this work, and it feels fabulous. There's nothing better than investing your time and energy in something that ultimately pays off. So
if you could, I know there's a story behind the cover. Could you tell that?
Well, the cover, a friend of mine at home, Laurie Doctor, who's a professional artist, she teaches all over the world. My publisher wanted me to show her the kinds of things I was interested in, or the kinds of images I liked. And I showed her Laurie's work, but I said something like this, but I thought we could never afford Laurie. And she said, well, maybe we can get a license to just use it for this one instance. So it's not like buying the painting, it's buying the use of the painting for one particular use. So she was able, this publisher, oh my God, has been incredible. She just hand delivered this book to a friend of mine in Lexington who ordered it online, and the publisher is in Lexington. But she hand delivered the book to my friend. Is that beyond the call of duty or what? So anyway, I love the image, and so what can I say?
Yeah, it's beautiful. And we will now move on to the signing. So just thank you so much for being here, and everyone's so proud.